So, Marvel released Age of Conan, Bêlit #1 yesterday, and oh boy, do I have things to say. Queen of the Black Coast by Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan, is quite possibly my second favorite Conan story. So far, there may be ones that replace it, because I'm not quite done getting through all of them. My first is probably the Frost Giant's Daughter, and I'm not even sure why that's my favorite. There's just something about that one that stands out to me. But Bêlit is a very close second favorite in her story. And I was really fascinated by her character, and I really enjoyed reading that story because she is such an interesting character. I mean, we don't get a lot. It's a novella. It doesn't delve into her psyche or anything. But she was fun. She's a very fun pirate queen. And I enjoyed the romance between her and Conan. I'm gonna read you a couple quotes from Queen of the Black Coast really quick. So, her first appearance, she turned towards Conan, her bosom heaving, her eyes flashing. Fierce fingers of wonder caught at his heart. She was slender, yet formed like a goddess, at once lithe and voluptuous. Her only garment was a broad silken girdle. Her white ivory limbs and the ivory globes of her breasts drove a beat of fierce passion through the Cimmerian's pulse, even in the panting fury of battle. Her rich black hair, black as a Stygian night, fell in rippling burnished clusters down her supple back. Her dark eyes burned on the Cimmerian. I really like that description. A few minutes later, she says to him, "Look at me, Conan." She threw wide her arms. "I am Bêlit, queen of the Black Coast. O tiger of the north, you are cold as the snowy mountains which bred you. Take me and crush me with your fierce love. Go with me to the ends of the earth and the ends of the sea. I am a queen by fire and steel and slaughter. Be thou my king." How do you go from that to this? Okay. So, the day before this was released, on Tuesday, Marvel released an article, The Pulp Origins of Bêlit, Queen of the Black Coast. I'm still not sure how to pronounce her name, because I couldn't really be bothered to figure out how to pronounce the little accent over her E. But, oh my gosh, this article infuriates me, because it's such historical revisionism to justify the way Tini Howard is writing this series. So, where was it? Okay. In fact, her ability to remain not only unconquered by Conan, but to subdue him, forced the barbarian and his hordes of fans to respect Bêlit, not dissimilar from the raiders aboard her ship, who never dared question or approach her as anything other than their captain. And as a ship's captain, she taught the Cimmerian the art of pirating at sea aboard her ship of raiders, something that would add to Conan's fame and notoriety. The second sentence of that is true. Just the second sentence. The first part, she remained not only unconquered, but subdued him. Okay, let's go back to my pre-prepared quotes. As they moved out over the glassy blue deep, Bêlit came to the poop. Her eyes were burning like those of a she-panther in the dark as she tore off her ornaments, her sandals, and her silken girdle, and cast them at his feet, his being Conan. Rising on tiptoe, arms stretched upward, a quivering line of naked white, she cried to the desperate horde, "Wolves of the blue sea, behold ye now the mating dance of Bêlit, whose fathers were kings of Ascalon." And she danced, like the spin of a desert whirlwind, like the leaping of a quenchless flame, like the urge of creation and the urge of death. Her white feet spurned the blood-stained deck, and dying men forgot death as they gazed frozen at her. Then, as the white stars glimmered through the blue velvet dusk, making her whirling body a blur of ivory fire, with a wild cry she threw herself at Conan's feet, and the blind flood of the Cimmerian's desire swept all else away as he crushed her panting form against the black plates of his corseleted breast. What part of throwing herself and also her jewelry and her ornaments, what part of throwing all that at Conan's feet is unconquered? That is like the definition of surrender. It's like, here are things of great value. Never mind that they're just her clothes, but like, here's gold and jewels, and basically it symbolizes I am putting everything I own at your feet. How do you go from that to her ability to remain not only unconquered by Conan, but to subdue him? Did we read the same story? Because I don't think we did. So, the article goes on. I will get to the comic in a minute. I just want to cover the background of what Bêlit actually was and is in Robert E. Howard's vision. So, following spoilers for Queen of the Black Coast, Bêlit dies. Okay? It sucked. I'm still waiting to meet Zenobia in the books, because she's Conan's other great love and his queen. So, okay. Although the two lovers were inseparable, her spirit could not be tamed, no matter the harm it brought upon them. Meh. Following a successful raid, the audacious pirate queen found herself slain at the hand of a winged demon, which sought to retrieve the ruby-laced treasure to which she held fast. Yet even death could not separate the Queen of the Black Coast from her barbarian for long, as she briefly returned from the dead to aid Conan in the destruction of the demon that slew her. This is true. That's how the story goes. Some might see this as a lover keeping an ever-watchful eye on her beloved. Yes. And still others may suggest that even after death, one should not cross Bêlit, Queen of the Black Coast. Okay, it's kind of true, but there's another quote. I think it's just one more quote. "There is life beyond death, I know, and I know this too, Conan of Samaria." She rose lithely to her knees and caught him in a pantherish embrace. "My love is stronger than any death. I have lain in your arms, panting with the violence of our love. You have held and crushed and conquered me! Conquered me! You have held and crushed and conquered me, drawing my soul to your lips with the fierceness of your bruising kisses. My heart is welded to your heart. My soul is part of your soul. Were I still in death and you fighting for life, I would come back from the abyss to aid you. I, whether my spirit floated with the purple sails on the crystal sea of paradise, or writhed in the molten flames of hell, I am yours, and all the gods and all their eternities shall not sever us." At first I asked, did Tini Howard actually read Queen of the Black Coast? Or did she just read some Wikipedia article or summary? I think she did read it. And in a way, for me, that's even worse. Because that means she took a character who wasn't hers, and I used to do this when I wrote fanfiction. I would see something I didn't like, or that I thought was lousy, like when I incorporated some elements of Frozen into one of my fanfics. And I'm like, well, this is lousy, and I don't like this canon, so I'm gonna throw it out. It's one thing on fanfiction, and where I was making an improvement, thank you very much. But to have an official comic, and to say, I'm just gonna do whatever I want with this character, that's not right. So when that article was posted on on Marvel's Facebook, I left several comments. I was very irate, so I left several comments. Hang on. Okay, I'm only at 10 minutes. And someone said, "Oh, this is just a different take on Bêlit." It's not just a different take. You can't take someone else's character, have an official paid job writing a story about them, and do a different take. That's identity theft. You're saying, oh, I'm going to use this name, but I'm gonna do whatever I want with it. So another thing is that, so I think a week or two ago, there was an article, an interview with Tini Howard, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I hope I'm pronouncing Tini Howard right. Where she talked about, oh, well, you know, goths and pirates, they're basically the same thing, so of course I incorporated goth elements into Bêlit. Is your only experience with pirates Johnny Depp? Because my throat is dry from talking so much. I don't normally talk this much. So, pirates and goths are not the same thing. And just from the quotes I read, I would hope you can see Bêlit loves life. And I know goths don't hate life, but there's nothing about that says goth to me. And I have no problem with goths. For goodness sake, one of my favorite characters is Yennefer of Vengerberg, who wears black and white and is described as almost deathly pale in the books. I have no problem with goths. I used to be a goth, as much as I was allowed to. Okay. Quotes, identity theft, goth equals pirate. Okay. Unfortunately, the lighting in my room and my camera, which is my phone, is kind of dumb. Well, just plain bad, so I can't really show you the pages. But this is Bêlit. And actually, she does look quite a bit like Yennefer. I can't believe I paid for this book. So, one, the bell... This does not look like any interpretation I've ever seen of Hyboria. It looks far too much like... I don't know. It's almost how I imagine Phoenicia, or a fantasy version of the Phoenician traders. And I don't have a problem with the look. It's not Bêlit. Also, how old is this girl supposed to be? She looks like she could be anywhere from 12 to 17. And 17 is generous. I mean, I'm 27, and people say I look 18. So, you know, I'm not one to judge, but... When you think... Where is it? She was slender yet formed like a goddess, at once lithe and voluptuous. Her only garment was a broad silken girdle. Her white ivory limbs and the ivory globes of her breasts drove a beat of fierce passion through the Cimmerian's pulse. Her rich black hair, black as a Stygian night, fell in rippling burnished clusters down her supple back. When I read that description, is this what you think a teenage version of Bêlit would look like? I don't mind them covering her up. I mean, I've joked about how any interpretation, any depiction of characters from the John Carter books, they're covered in clothes and way more clothes. In the John Carter books, everyone is naked. Everyone is naked, and John Carter has no problem with this. He wakes up naked on Mars, and he's just like, okay, cool. I can work with this. And the Conan books actually have a lot more clothing than either the movies or the comics for it. So I don't mind Bêlit being covered up. I do feel like it's a bit much. And I just don't like that dress. It looks like a sack. I don't know any teenage girl. I'm not even that pretty, and I hate baggy clothing. Okay. Let's move on. So, the story starts with... I'm not even going to get into this Song of Bêlit lost verses, because I'm not very good with poetry, but I'll say that I'm pretty sure that's lousy poetry. So, for those of you who haven't read the book, or novella, each chapter was introduced... Robert E. Howard was basically a trained poet, and so with each chapter of Queen of the Black Coast, he would have a verse from the Song of Bêlit. I'm not good with poetry, I have a hard time focusing on it and interpreting it, so I didn't really pay attention to it, but his was good. And what Tini Howard is incorporating as her new the lost verses of the Song of Bêlit, I'm not impressed. So it opens in Osgulin. Is that right, actually? She's from Ascalon. Oh. Oh. Bêlit, so, taken from the book itself, Bêlit, whose fathers were kings of Ascalon. And then, here in the comic, it's kings of Osgulin, which isn't a big deal, but what exactly does that say about how well she read Queen of the Black Coast? Nothing good. So it opens on a very sparse, modern... It looks like how I imagine medieval Spain. Renaissance Spain, honestly. Okay. So it opens, her father is looking for her, and basically no one wants to hang out with Bêlit because she's obsessed with sea monsters. And so she's avoiding her lessons by standing on the deck of one of her father's ships and looking for sea monsters. It's so goth. It really is, and it just bugs me all the more. And... okay. So, surprisingly, she has a really good relationship with her father. I'm impressed, though he looks more like he came out of Game of Thrones than out of Robert E. Howard's stories. And So, the kings of Asgulin. No, I won't let that go. I won't. So, the kings of Asgulin are pirates who just kind of became kings because they declared it. And I think it's she calls her father king of the pirates? I need more world building! Seriously, I need I need more about what the heck how this city operates and exactly what her and her father's position in it. I I didn't think of her as being the daughter of a pirate. When she said she was the daughter of kings, I imagined her being a princess whose family had been overthrown. She escaped to the sea, probably became a pirate to get revenge on the people who destroyed her family, and then just said, hey, this is fun. Okay. The dialogue is eh. I'm a little confused because, oh my gosh. So, Bêlit has set herself up as a guard against sea monsters when everyone keeps telling her no one has seen sea monsters in a very long time. And she wants to be a pirate. She wants to be a dread admiral. I don't feel like that's a rank that existed in Conan's verse. Her father actually calls her my sullen little siren. Where is it? Look at me, Conan. I am Bêlit, queen of the Black Coast. O tiger of the north, you are cold as the snowy mountains which bred you. Take me and crush me with your fierce love. Go with me to the ends of the earth and the ends of the sea. I am a queen by fire and steel and slaughter. Be thou my king. What in that is sullen? And I mean, that's what I forgot to put in my outline. So, one thing that this comic made me realize, and one thing that really bugs me, is why would you take her back to being a teenager? Now, what's really interesting is the phrase teenager didn't actually come to be a thing until the 50s or 60s. And no, I'm not going to research exact dates or details. I don't care enough. But before that, you were a child, and then you were an adult. And we keep coming up with ways to create this whole sub-dimension, pocket dimension, or whatever, where you're a child and then you're a teenager, which means you're supposed to have more freedom. More freedom, but none of the responsibility of being an adult. Which I think is a serious disaster for our society. And then you're supposed to transition to becoming an adult. However, what used to be, okay, for 4 years here, you're gonna go to high school, and you're gonna be a teenager. And, like I said, some responsibility, freedom, but not a lot of responsibility. You're not an adult. And then you shift to being, then you go to college. And the thing about, I live in a college town. I live by a state university. And just hearing the way students talk and just even my observations of other college students, 4 years of college has become just an extension of teenagerhood. It's a way of delaying adulthood. And I don't think that's a good way for a society to function, because so we get teenagers who then they stay in this perpetual state of I don't want to be an adult, or I can't be an adult, because they weren't trained to be adults. And instead of accepting responsibility when they were 15, 16, I mean, how many of you look at even just the founding of America, and a lot of the major players in the revolution were like 19 years old. You can't even comprehend 19-year-olds doing anything like that nowadays. No, they just sit and they protest and they whine because they want their safe spaces. My throat hurts. And I've noticed a part of this is they don't grow out of teenagerhood, and so they stay fixated on these things that are teenage focused. And this is why we get a teenage Bêlit. Now, admittedly, the story never says how old she is. She could be 18 or 19. I'd guess early 20s. Maybe that's just me. But this is why we get a teen Bêlit. This is why we get a teen Miss Marvel. This is why we get what is Squirrel Girl? 19? This is why there's such a focus, and this is why... I think I was 25 the last time I tried to sit down and read a young adult book, and I was just like, I can't read this. The characters are too immature. I just can't handle it. I think there was one I went back to read to finish a series. What's that quote from C.S. Lewis? Where he says... Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I really want to get this right. Okay. Let me give a minute. Okay, that quote is not what I thought. But as you grow up, you are supposed to grow out of childish things. And you're not supposed to stay perpetually in the state of a goth teenager. And when I was doing I did do a little research for this video, and so when I was doing that research video, I actually saw some pictures of Tini Howard, who is a goth, which tells me you're projecting. You're projecting. And you looked at this fierce pirate queen, and the only way you could write her was to turn her into yourself. And I think that's a problem with a lot of stories. A lot of people project onto characters. That's part of what is wrong with YA books nowadays, is they create these blank slate characters so that the reader can project onto them. My recording cut out because the file size was too big. Urgh! What was I saying? So, you project yourself onto a character, which is even worse than just writing a blank character so the reader can project onto her. Learn to write a character who is not you. I understand putting elements of yourself into a character. That's fine. But don't take someone else's pirate queen and turn her into a goth. Let's get beyond page 2, shall we? I'll try. So, the writing is a bit confusing because, she's supposed to go to her lessons with Nyaga, who is her... Nyaga is in the original story. And I won't even get into that. So, her father is attacked by ruffians and taken away. She manages to get to him. I understand you only have a 5-issue miniseries, but I need so much more world building in this story to understand what the heck is going on. So, Her father dies. She kills her father. So, her father is accused of having debts that he hasn't repaid. And so, he's tied to a post and stranded out on a sandbar in view of the city where they are. Pirates of the Caribbean ripoff, proving I was right. And so Bêlit sits with her father, and finally he's like, no, I don't want to die like this. So he has Bêlit kill him. Yay! Yay! Patricide! She comes back to the city and finds that people are in chaos without her father there. They steal his ships. And she tries to claim that the ships should be hers. There's so many questions. Also, does that look like a woman to you? Like I said, I know I can't show it very well. Does that look like a woman to you? Because it doesn't look like one to me. So, she was thrown in a box by someone. I have no idea how this all works, and she was thrown in a box on a slave ship. The pirates raid the ship, or because it's a slave ship, so, like, slavery isn't frowned on in Hyboria. It's just not. She's let out of the box, and she's like, I am not a pirate princess, I'm a pirate queen. Well, it's better than saying you're a pirate general, because pirate general is a step down from princess. I don't understand why people don't get this. And then we skip forward a week, and she's gone from feral girl in a box to a proper lady in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And she tries to demand her father's ship back, and they're attacked by a sea monster right after she's been told that basically she wants to go sea monster hunting. Coming back to, she's a little goth girl. Okay, this has devolved into nonsense. It isn't a proper review, I acknowledge, because I'm not good at reviewing stuff. I'm good at ranting. Why would you do this? Why would you take a character who's not yours, project yourself onto her, don't do this, Marvel. Don't. I will probably read the next ones because maybe it'll get better. It's only a 5-issue miniseries. I can handle 5 issues. But that's not Bêlit. It's not. And that's my final word on the matter.